Imagine a world where breaking Lent by eating meat could get you paraded through the streets with the meat you ate slung around your neck. This might sound absurd, but it was a reality in medieval Europe. During this time, the church had an iron grip on people's lives, and even the slightest breach of its rules could result in severe punishment. This essay will take you on a journey through the history of cutlery and the role of the church in medieval society, exploring how these seemingly unrelated aspects of life were intertwined in ways that might surprise you. Knives, which we now take for granted, were once personal items. Guests carried them in sheaths attached to their belts, using them not just for eating but also as weapons. According to the Renaissance scholar Erasmus, it was considered proper etiquette to bring food to the mouth with one's fingers. This might seem unhygienic by today's standards, but it was the norm. The fork, on the other hand, was a much later addition to the dining table. It first appeared in the 15th century, but was primarily used for serving dishes. It wasn't until 1589 that forks were regularly laid out at the French court, and even then, their use was still considered somewhat unusual. The introduction of the fork was met with skepticism and even disdain. Jacques Lesage, a French silk merchant, noted in his diary after a Venetian ducal banquet in 1520 that the noblemen used silver forks to pick up their meat. This was seen as a strange and almost comical practice, a sign of the luxurious and extravagant lifestyles of the wealthy. While the evolution of cutlery reflects changes in dining habits, the role of the church in medieval Europe was far more pervasive and influential. The church was not just a religious institution, it was a powerful political and social force. Every European, except for the Jews, was expected to be a devout Christian, veneration of the Virgin Mary and the saints being a central part of their faith. Parishioners were required to attend Mass, hate their enemies, and keep the major fasts. Fasting was a significant challenge for the faithful. It was not just a matter of going without food, it was a test of one's devotion. In one Breton village, a woman who had proudly participated in a Lenten procession was later caught breaking her fast. She was sentenced to walk the village streets with the meat she had eaten hanging around her neck, a public humiliation that served as a warning to others. This might seem harsh, but it was a reflection of the strict moral code enforced by the church. The church's authority extended beyond spiritual matters. It had its own legal system, which often imposed punishments that were both severe and public. One of the most extreme examples involved a baron who stole a chalice from a parish church. The theft was treated as a grave offense, and the local bishop ordered a dramatic ritual to curse the thief. The church was draped in black, and the congregation gathered to witness the bishop's condemnation. The baron was declared an outlaw, and his name was cursed in a ritual that involved extinguishing candles, symbolizing the extinguishing of his life. The baron eventually repented, but his penance was brutal. He donated his entire fortune to the church, fasted, and was beaten by 60 monks and priests. Only then was he absolved of his sins. These extreme punishments might seem excessive, but they served a purpose. The church believed that strict enforcement of its rules was necessary to maintain order and prevent moral decay. For more serious crimes, the church often imposed pilgrimages as a form of penance. Pilgrims were required to travel long distances, often barefoot and in chains, to holy sites like Rome or Jerusalem. These journeys were not just physical, they were spiritual trials that were meant to atone for the pilgrim's sins. The church's influence on daily life was profound. It shaped the way people ate, dressed, and behaved. Even the introduction of the fork, a seemingly mundane object, was influenced by the church's norms. The fork was initially seen as a luxury item, a symbol of the wealthy and the elite. Over time, it became more common, but its adoption was gradual and often met with resistance. In conclusion, the history of cutlery and the role of the church in medieval Europe are two sides of the same coin. They both reflect the complex and often contradictory nature of medieval society. While the church imposed strict rules and harsh punishments, it also provided a sense of structure and purpose. The evolution of dining habits, such as the introduction of the fork, was part of a broader cultural shift that reflected changing social norms and values. Understanding this history helps us appreciate how far we have come and how much our daily lives have been shaped by the past.